So I recall watching a review of today's subject matter from a YouTuber a year or so back, and he had dubbed this game the worst ever made. I don't remember who did the review, he's probably still around somewhere, but I recall his overall negative reaction to the game, and his arguments and points had made it explicitly clear that this game was not going to be worth my hard-earned money. So of course I bought the damn thing. Yeah, like that should surprise anybody. I am somewhat consistent if nothing else in my foolishness. But yeah, VIP for the original Sony Playstation. For those of you who have no idea what VIP is, I can't help you there because I've never seen the thing. The only thing I know is that it was a show that aired many moons ago for about 4 years and starred Pamela Anderson as Valerie Irons of Valerie Irons Protection, or VIP or something. Sounds absolutely riveting. Oh, and the only other thing I know is that Steve Austin had a cameo appearance or something. Suddenly his being cast in The Condemned makes plenty of sense.
What?
Right. Perhaps the only thing worse than that lame attempt at a sketch is VIP's lame attempt at supposed gameplay. Instead of being any remotely interesting type of game, such as an action game, an adventure game. Hell, I'll even take a dress-up game if it meant anything, but no. Instead, what we're getting is a Simon game of supposedly quick-time button presses. Basically, buttons appear on screens, and you have to press them all in order for your on-screen character to perform fighting moves on a near infinite number of indistinguishable men in suits. Naturally, as you progress, these button combos get more extravagant and more complex, but the gameplay is nowhere near any better, nor is it, quite frankly, any more fun. Oh, there's other styles of play. There's a couple shootouts here and there, a couple puzzles here and there that you have to solve. But mostly it's this strange poor man's Bust-A-Groove that fills out the majority of gameplay in VIP, if you want to call it that. And while the shootouts are fun for about 2 seconds, maybe 3, they don't last as long as the button sequence crap, which tends to drag on forever. Quite honestly, it got to the point where I didn't feel like playing much of the game anymore and just gave up. There's just nothing there. Especially with controls. You'd think a game based on pushing the correct sequence of buttons would get control down to a T, but somehow control is flawed with this button sequencing. There were instances where I didn't put the button sequence exactly how it's displayed on screen, and it would register as the wrong sequence, and my worthless on-screen protagonist would take damage. And I'm not just throwing that out there based on the content. There's really no point in having any visual reference when it comes to this game, because it's just press buttons this way, and if you lose, you get to replay the segment. You know, continue, replay. So, but really, who cares? Speaking of visuals, VIP sports some pretty bland visuals. I mean, really bland. The characters on screen move about stiffly, the action is jittery, and the overall look of the game is not all that appealing. You figure a game based on a Pamela Anderson vehicle would look nice, even within the capabilities of the PlayStation hardware, but this just looks bland in general. Even if I knew anything about the show this thing was based on, I still wouldn't find anything here the least bit appealing. Oh, and the CGI cutscenes don't fare that much better. I suppose live action stuff shot for the game would have been out of the question, but it's preferable to this stuff, which almost makes the in-game visuals look a touch better. Faint praise, I'm sure. As far as the audio goes, no comment. I wish I could say more about VIP, but unfortunately there's not a whole lot to it, as the gameplay is quite shallow and may turn some players off after a few minutes play. If that. I wish I could say this was a matter of style over substance, except there seems to be very little style and very little substance. If that. In the long run, VIP's only redeeming quality is that it is not the worst video game ever made. I've clearly played worse games than this, but that's very faint praise over a game that makes no effort to give the player any incentive to really get into the game or get interested in playing the game. Overall, unless you're a fan of the show, and even that's a stretch,
What?
I wouldn't bother with this one.